Generous introduction, and also just for the opportunity to be with you all this morning. It's a really great assembly of devotees this morning. It's just reminding me, just how enlivening it feels to be with devotees who are just eager to experience Krishna in so many different ways. And today we'll be trying to enter into Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna's literary incarnation. So it's just really beautiful to join everyone this morning, inspired by all of you, and I offer my obeisances to all of you. And thank you. Okay, so we will enter into our reading, and this is today, and I'll share the screen as well. Yeah, it's canto number 10. We're on chapter 16. Krishna chastises the serpent Kaliya. And the verses for today are 9 and 10. So we may read up to this point just to give a little context. Okay. So I'll share the screen. Okay. Everyone can see all right? Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so we'll just read in English the verses leading up to today's verses. Shukadev Goswami said, Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, seeing that the Yamuna River had been contaminated by the black snake Kaliya, desired to purify the river, and thus the Lord banished him from it. King Parikshit inquired, O learned sage, please explain how the Supreme Personality of Godhead chastised the serpent Kaliya within the unfathomable waters of the Yamuna, and how it was that Kaliya had been living there for so many ages. O Brahmana, the unlimited Supreme Personality of Godhead freely acts according to his own desires. Who could be satiated when hearing the nectar of the magnanimous pastimes he performed as a cowherd boy in Vrindavan? Sri Shukadev Goswami said, within the river Kalindi, Yamuna, was a lake inhabited by the serpent Kaliya, whose fiery poison constantly heated and boiled its waters. Indeed, the vapors thus created were so poisonous that birds flying over the contaminated lake would fall down into it. The wind blowing over that deadly lake carried droplets of water to the shore. Simply by coming in contact with that poisonous breeze, all vegetation and creatures on the shore died. Lord Krishna saw how the Kaliya serpent had polluted the Yamuna River with his terribly powerful poison. Since Krishna had descended from the spiritual world specifically to subdue envious demons, the Lord immediately climbed to the top of a very high Kadamba tree and prepared himself for battle. He tightened his belt, slapped his arms, and then jumped into the poisonous water. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead landed in the serpent's lake, the snakes there became extremely agitated and began breathing heavily, further polluting it with volumes of poison. The force of the Lord's entrance into the lake caused it to overflow on all sides, and poisonous, fearsome waves flooded the surrounding lands up to a distance of 100 bow lengths. This is not at all amazing, however, for the Supreme Lord possesses infinite strength. Krishna began sporting in Kaliya's lake like a lordly elephant, swirling his mighty arms and making the water resound in various ways. When Kaliya heard these sounds, he understood that someone was trespassing in his lake. The serpent could not tolerate this and immediately came forward. Okay, so now we've arrived at the two verses that we'll look at today. Tram tam prekshaniya sukumara ganavadatam Shrivatsapita vasanam smita sundarashyam Kridantam apratibayam kamalo darangrim Sandasya marma surusha bhujaya chachada. Translation. Kaliya saw that Sri Krishna, who wore yellow silken garments, was very delicate. His attractive body shining like a glowing white cloud, his chest bearing the mark of Srivatsa, his face smiling beautifully, and his feet resembling the whorl of a lotus flower. The Lord was playing fearlessly in the water. Despite his wonderful appearance, the envious Kaliya furiously bit him on the chest and then completely enwrapped him in his coils. Tam naga boga parivitam adrishta chestam alokya tat priya sakha pashupa brishartaha Krishne ripitatmasurid artakalatra kama Dukhanushoka Bhayamuda Dio Nipetuhu. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. When the members of the cowherd community who had accepted Krishna as their dearmost friend saw him enveloped in the snake's coils, motionless, they were greatly disturbed. They had offered Krishna everything, their very selves, their families, their wealth, wives, and all pleasures. At the sight of the Lord in the clutches of the Kaliya snake, their intelligence became deranged by grief, lamentation, and fear, and thus they fell to the ground. Purport. Srila Sanatana Goswami explains that the cowherd boys, along with some cowherd men and farmers who happened to be in the vicinity and who were also devotees of Krishna, fell to the ground just like trees that had been cut at the root. So we'll offer an invocation, seeking the mercy of our Guru Parampara, of the Lord, and of all of the devotees, that we may have an enlivening and meaningful discussion this morning that will help us to become all the more drawn in to the process of Krishna consciousness, and that we can, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, experience great happiness by enlivening and enlightening each other about Krishna. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Darati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitya Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachaline Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Okay, so good morning, everyone. Thank you again. I'd like to seek all of your blessings as we proceed into this Katha this morning, Adi Purusha Prabhu, and all of the wonderful devotees assembled here this morning. So thank you. And these two verses that we're looking at here are quite alarming, you can say, quite painful to hear about Kaliya and his envy approaching Krishna in the water and forcefully biting him on the chest. And then we are told about how the residents of Vrindavan, particularly the cowherd men who witnessed this, who are devotees of Krishna, who have offered everything in their lives to Krishna, everything. It enumerates, this list, but we know that for the Brajvasis, Krishna is absolutely their life and soul. And to see Krishna motionless, entangled in the coils of Kaliya, they fall to the ground. And Srila Prabhupada says in his purport, this is coming from Srila Sanatana Goswami, that they are like trees that have been cut at the root. So this is a very sober and intense moment in this pastime. And we feel naturally upon reading this, we feel some of that anxiety. We get a glimpse of that anxiety that the residents of Vrindavan must have been experiencing at that moment. Of course, we have the fortune of knowing that Krishna is victorious. Krishna is always victorious, as Bhagavad Gita explains. But at the same time, in this moment, there's great anxiety. So there are two main themes that come up in these two verses. So one is the envy of Kaliya, and another is the deep, deep connection and attachment that the residents of Vrindavan feel to Krishna. So these are two themes that we may explore a bit this morning. So Kaliya witnesses the beauty of Krishna. He has Krishna's direct darshan. Krishna is right there before him. And this beautiful scriptural description here of all of Krishna's beautiful, beautiful features and qualities, that his feet are like the whorl of a lotus flower, that his chest bears the mark of Srivatsa, special mark that's on Krishna's chest, that he's shining beautifully. And this particular description says he's shining like a white cloud. So in this way, there's a great effulgence around Krishna. So it's so beautiful and absorbing to read these descriptions. So we might imagine that Kaliya is also on some level experiencing, observing, and being captured actually by the beauty of Krishna. However, what is it that prevents him from entering into this darshan, into this direct darshan? It's his envy. So this verse details that despite viewing the beauty of Krishna, Kaliya is envious and proceeds to attack him. So envy of Krishna is so dangerous. Envy of devotees is so dangerous because it prevents us from experiencing love. It prevents us from experiencing the beauty and the abundance of what Krishna is providing. Krishna's flow of mercy and grace that's just always there, always there. Sometimes we think that seeking the Lord's mercy is something like climbing a ladder. We may mistakenly have this notion, but the Acharyas explain that actually it's a flow that is always there, and the only credit that we can take is showing up, is perhaps getting underneath that waterfall, so to speak. So in this way, it may be envy, may be attachment that holds us back from receiving that mercy. And in this particular case, Kaliya is bound by his envy. Though he may outwardly appear to be binding Krishna in the coils of his body, actually he is bound. He is bound by his envy toward the Lord, and therefore he is not receiving fully the beauty and the mercy of this direct darshan of Sri Krishna. So knowing and experiencing the love of Krishna and the devotees, this is actually what dispels our envy. So our envy can be, or any of our conditioning actually, we have imperfect senses, we make mistakes, we have the tendency to become illusioned, and we also have a very strong fault-finding tendency. So all of these things, yes, they are impediments on the path of devotion, and even impediments in our day-to-day existence, what to speak of our ultimate spiritual goals. Even in our immediate day-to-day life, all of these things interfere in so many ways, create so much noise. But at the same time, these can be compared. We read in this beautiful book, Light of the Bhagavat, that Srila Prabhupada compiled and Srila Prabhupada wrote. It has these unique illustrations alongside it. It's a special book. In this book, there are many nature descriptions, and it's coming from Srimad Bhagavatam, describing the seasons in Vrindavan. But in this Light of the Bhagavat, one of the descriptions is that the sky is obscured by rain clouds. And Srila Prabhupada, in his commentary, he's explaining that though the clouds may be very dark and very vast, and they may appear to actually cover the whole sky, from our point of view at certain times, actually the sky is so vast that we know in truth that only a very, very small patch of the sky is being covered by that cloud. So in the same way, our conditioning, whatever envy, whatever illusion, whatever we may be carrying with us that seems to obscure Krishna's beauty, we know that Krishna's beauty is unlimited, is ever expanding. So in this way, we understand that whatever impedes us from experiencing Krishna's love, experiencing Krishna's beauty, that it's just momentarily patching up this infinite sky of Krishna's glory. So it still creates obstacles for us, but that is the spiritual reality. But when we understand our relationship with Krishna, and particularly when we can feel the love of Krishna, and how do we feel the love of Krishna? So many ways. I'd actually love to hear from everyone. Let's table this. How do we feel and experience practically the love of Krishna in the day-to-day? A lot of the time we experience it through his devotees. So that reassures us, it enlivens us, and it has a cooling effect on whatever envy or whatever we might be carrying. It can easily be cooled by experiencing that love, because all of a sudden, Krishna is no longer the object of our envy, but Krishna, we recognize the real reality that Krishna is our dearmost friend. Krishna is our protector. Krishna is our guardian. Krishna is the object of our love, the ultimate object of our love. So we can remember in the pastime of Lord Nrsingadev that there's Prahlad Maharaj and that there's Hiranyakashipu, right? So Hiranyakashipu is extremely envious of the Lord. And so he's challenging very strongly his son Prahlad, who is a great devotee, who loves Krishna, who feels sheltered by Krishna, despite the horrific circumstances to which he had been subjected by Hiranyakashipu. So Hiranyakashipu is challenging Prahlad Maharaj. Oh, this wonderful Lord that you're describing, he's just full of envy. Is he here in this pillar? And he strikes the pillar. And of course, we know Lord Nrsingadev appears, and Lord Nrsingadev does very swiftly, as Adipurusha Prabhu sings in his wonderful rendition of the Nrsinga Pranam, that with wondrous nails sharp as a sword, he very quickly vanquishes Hiranyakashipu. And Prahlad Maharaj is just looking on. So that envy is there, and it's very interesting to see in the father and son dynamic there of Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad Maharaj, how they're both experiencing Krishna directly in that moment, but from very, very different points of view. So Hiranyakashipu is experiencing Lord Nrsingadev as the most fearful, as fear personified, as death personified, while Prahlad Maharaj is experiencing the soothing and joyful darshan of his Lord personally coming to protect him. And of course, out of his compassion, he still feels for his father. But at the same time, he is feeling completely protected in that moment. So we hear the analogy sometimes that a cat's mouth, the mouth of a cat, looks very different to a kitten than it does to a mouse. So in this way, if we are seeing and trusting that Krishna has our best interests at heart, that Krishna loves us, that Krishna is carrying us through this life, through all of the obstacles, that if we depend upon Krishna, that he will make a way for us, then we can respond to the horrific or scary moments in life more like as the kitten sees the mouth of the cat. That, oh, I'm about to be carried, I'm about to be lifted up by one who loves me and is caring for me. But the mouse who views the cat as death personified and sees the cat as a threat will absolutely experience fear upon seeing the cat. So this is just some type of analogy that can be helpful when we consider these aspects. So if we have a propensity like Kaliya to see Krishna's beauty and then to attack it, to say, to just be full of envy and to try to find a way to reject or even to attack out of envy the beauty that Krishna is placing before us in our lives, this is envy. But Kaliya sees Krishna's beauty. He does on some level, and that's communicated in this verse. The way that Krishna's beauty is so beautifully described, we're also seeing that Kaliya is observing this. Yet he's seeing it as something that he can't possess. He's seeing it as something that is a threat to him. So this is not the quality of a Vaishnava. The quality of a Vaishnava is that Krishna's beauty is our ultimate upliftment. Krishna's beauty is our greatest happiness. Krishna's beauty is the source of everything. Krishna's beauty is the source of all beauty. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, all glorious things, all glorious creations expand from but a spark of my splendor. So in this way, a devotee wants to relish the beauty of Krishna. A devotee wants to not possess the beauty of Krishna, not challenge the beauty of Krishna, but to relish, to appreciate, to feel grateful for the beauty. And a devotee also celebrates beauty that is seen in Krishna, that is seen in others. We don't become envious and wish to possess that, because Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that he says, I am the ability in man. I am the ability in people. So all of the good qualities that we see in others, we can recognize that that's coming from Krishna, can actually nourish our faith. So a Vaishnava, we hear often that a Vaishnava is paradukha dukhi, that a Vaishnava becomes compassionate and feels pain when they witness the suffering or pain of another. But the flip side of that is that a Vaishnava is also parasukha sukhi, that a Vaishnava will experience joy, happiness upon seeing others happy, upon seeing others' beautiful qualities in this life. We can try to see it as just part of Krishna's beautiful expansion, that the rays of his glories are expanding. And in this way, he is giving these gifts to each person, that Krishna loves variety. And we'll see so many beautiful qualities in each person we may come in contact with. And rather than feel envy, we can say, as we often say in this space, how wonderful is Krishna? It's just a natural way of seeing that. When we see the beauty in others, we can say, how wonderful is Krishna? That just in this very minute way, he's giving so many beautiful qualities to everyone. And it's not minute, to our eyes in this world. When we see someone who's kind, who's caring, someone who has a wonderful talent that they're using in an inspiring way, it really gives us life. It really, really does. And it's no small thing. So Krishna is giving us so many ways to experience his presence. So yeah, we try to relish these descriptions of Krishna, and we try to relish the darshan of Krishna's form, deity form. So envy can cloud our eyes in so many ways. And it begs the question of just how often may Krishna be showing up in our lives? Yet somehow or other we can fail to see it fully as it is. And what that's something that I try to question within myself. If I'm not feeling inspired, or if I'm feeling a little distant from Krishna, what is it that's clouding my vision? What is it that's holding me back? And envy is very stale. Envy is very corrosive, and it doesn't serve us. It doesn't bring us happiness. I think it's a quote from Mark Twain. I'm totally paraphrasing here, but Mark Twain says something like, anger is an acid. Anger is like an acid that only serves to corrode the vessel in which it is held, and causes more damage to the vessel in which it is held than that upon which it may be poured. So in that way, if we're harboring negative feelings like anger or envy, they harm us much more than the objects of those feelings. So yeah, Krishna, on the other hand, is never stale. He is ever fresh. And there are so many beautiful descriptions. I'll just read one verse here. This is coming from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, chapter 28, text number 15. And this purport is unbelievable too. I just recommend for anyone to read. It's so beautiful. It's speaking about Krishna. It says, he also wears around his neck a garland of attractive sylvan flowers, and a swarm of bees, intoxicated by its delicious fragrance, hums about the garland. He is further superbly adorned with a pearl necklace, a crown, and pairs of armlets, bracelets, and anklets. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is describing how in the spiritual sky, there's nothing but freshness. So in this way, if we can try to allow this freshness into our life, and this is what evokes the appearance of the Supreme Lord. If we're deeply absorbed in devotional service, it's absorption in devotional service and absorption in Krishna, in his names, forms, qualities, pastimes. That's what evokes his appearance for us in the day to day. So Krishna has more in store for us than we can imagine. And how might we live if we truly knew that? That's another question I ask myself. If we really have that shraddha, that faith, that Krishna loves us, that Krishna always wants the best for us, and that he has more for us than we can imagine. He has such a wonderful plan for each and every one of us in service, in loving service. How would we live? How would we live? Maybe we would be emboldened to try to make an offering. So Krishna is the life and soul of the devotees, and this is exemplified by the Brajvasis. So in this verse today, Prabhupada is describing how upon seeing Krishna threatened by Kaliya, the devotees fall over like trees cut at the root. So it's such a beautiful, fitting description that Srila Sanatana Goswami gives, and that Srila Prabhupada is revealing to us, sharing with us in this purport, because a tree cut at the root has no nourishment, has no vitality, has no life. So as Krishna is the life and soul of all of the Brajvasis, of all of the pure devotees, then in this way, if they see Krishna threatened like this, yes, of course, it would just cut off all of the vitality of their life. And of course, we see this, the transcendental emotions that we are seeing. It really brings it brings home this point that if we're disconnected from Krishna, which of course you can say the spiritual reality is that we're never really disconnected from Krishna, but in various ways we can have distance from Krishna according to our own state of being. And in that case, we can be compared to like a limb without the body, or a tree without roots, that there's no sense of purpose, there's no vitality, there's no energy there. So we're always trying to stay connected And these transcendental emotions of the cowherd community that we're seeing in this verse, it foretells actually their transcendental suffering, their transcendental separation when Krishna leaves Vrindavan and goes to Mathura and later Dwarka. And the Brajvasis were suffering. And of course, it's a transcendental suffering, but it's extremely intense when we read about it in the scripture. So this suffering is relieved on certain rare occasions, one of which when they travel to Kurukshetra. This is in Krishna book, when they travel to Kurukshetra to see Krishna along with Balaram and Subhadra. And this is one of the origin stories of Lord Jagannath and of the Ratha Yatra, that upon seeing the Brajvasis, Krishna became very ecstatic and his eyes opened, his smile broadened, his arms contracted within, right? So this is when we see the form of Lord Jagannath, one way in which we can meditate upon this form of Lord Jagannath, that when Krishna beheld the gopis, the gopas, the cowherd community who knew him so well, despite his dress as a king, that he became so joyful. So Ratha Yatra is a way of pulling Krishna further into our heart from a state of separation to a state of closeness, and experiencing those feelings of wanting Krishna to move beyond awe and reverence in our life and to become very, very closely connected to us in love, in truth. So these feelings of separation bring us closer to Krishna ultimately. So Krishna chastises Kaliya in this pastime. He ultimately does not kill him, which is very rare and special. And it's the prayers of the Nagapatnis, it's the prayers of the wives of Kaliya that please Krishna. So this is another strong example of just the power of the causeless affection of the devotees. That if a devotee loves us, there's just such a blessing, immense, incalculable blessing that comes with that. We see it also in the pastime of Jagai and Madai, that Lord Chaitanya is actually going to kill Jagai and Madai with the Sudarshan Chakra. But Lord Nityananda is so merciful, and he goes to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and says, please, my Lord, this is not what we're doing right now. And in this way, Lord Chaitanya remembers, oh, yes, in this age, our weapon is the holy name, the mridangas, the kartals. So anyway, just if a devotee loves us, we are in a beautiful position. So Krishna's chastisement of Kaliya is mercy. Krishna's killing demons is also mercy. Those demons are liberated. Krishna's thievery is mercy. When he's stealing butter from the cowherd women in Vrindavan, that's mercy. They're experiencing happiness. Who can say that they can steal something and you feel happy? You feel happy to have been stolen from by this personality. So this can't be said of anyone. This is so unique and so fresh that Krishna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is able to have these exchanges. So Kaliya sees Krishna's beauty, but he does not immediately surrender to it. He continues to expel poison for some time and to feel envy and to attack Krishna. But ultimately, Krishna's beauty triumphs, even over envy and anger and greed and the illusion of being in control. Krishna's beauty always triumphs over this. We all have our own unique way of being enchanted by Krishna's beauty, and it's a progressive process. It doesn't happen overnight, but Krishna consciousness is a way of each day trying to find a way to behold Krishna's beauty and to be captured by it. So Srila Prabhupada's given us so many avenues by which we can experience that beauty. So I'll stop here. Thank you all so much, and eager to hear everyone's reflections. And just to bring it back to that one question also, just how do we experience that beauty and love in our day-to-day life? So thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you, Dina Bandhu Prabhu. Beautiful class. It's just one of those classes where I want to come up and hug the speaker and kiss him and rub him. It's great. Thank you. Okay, temple room, reflections, questions, other than how wonderful is Krishna. It's already been said.
We have a similar response. Prasang, what does it say? You hear the discourse given by the sat, by the pure devotee. It's very pleasing to the ear and satisfying to the heart. So when we hear your class, we relax. It's like a ray of sunshine. It's like fresh air. It's refreshing and nourishing and true. It's a miracle. We were remembering one kind of vigorous discussion between two devotees years ago. Krishna Katha. You know Krishna Katha? I don't know. I haven't seen him in like 30, 40 years. He must be around somewhere. And another devotee named Nishringa. And Nishringa was saying, well, if the person giving class is assuming that he is giving the word of God, Shastra, and isn't that a possibility that someone will think that is arrogant and they'll be intimidated by that, presentation of what I say is like God speaking through me. But if God's not speaking through you, what's the use of going to class? We want to hear what Krishna has to say. And Krishna Katha spoke very nicely, responding to that challenge. He said, well, we are on the hand of the speaker. We are actually endeavoring to repeat our spiritual master. And we're praying to Krishna, please let me know what you want us to say. And then on the other hand, the listener, of course, has the prerogative to say, is this Dina Bandhu speaking? Or is this, when we hear you speak, it's just like hearing Radhanath Swami or Prabhupada or, Krishna speak. Is Krishna directly speaking through you? So the person listening can respond like that too. And then he said there's an analogy in the Bible, parable. The sower, they used to just throw the seeds, walk around, throw the seeds. He said the sower throws his seeds out, and some seeds fall on a rock, and some fall on the wayside and are trampled, and some seeds fall among thorns, and some seeds fall upon good ground. And the disciple said, what are you talking about? And he said, well, the seed is like the word of God. So the hearer, we're talking about the speaker has to be accurate and the hearer has to be appropriate also. So some seeds are falling among thorns and they're choked out by the worries and cares of this world. And the word of God does not actually flourish in that situation, falls on a rock and it doesn't have any roots. So when the rain comes and it sprouts, it just gets burnt by the sun. But some seeds fall on good ground. And the good ground compared to the heart of the appropriate hearer. And the seed takes root there and it flourishes and it grows and it matures and it produces abundantly 100-fold. So, we're thanking Krishna for his love manifest by the way you're giving class. And we're also praying to Krishna that we might become appropriately receptive to the simple truth. Anyway, maybe that's too complex. But anyway, that's just what Krishna gave me to say. I hope that's what Krishna wanted to say here. We'll go to Prabhupada.
Thank you so much, Adi Purusha. No, what you said was absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
Prabhupada.
I was thinking, what's my experience of Krishna? How do I experience Krishna? And I immediately thought of Jamuna Jaya's smile. That's a very direct experience of Krishna.
Yes.
Yeah, Jamuna Jaya is traveling. She promised to pray for us all. Jamuna Jaya, if you're watching this, we love you. Thank you for showing Krishna's love, letting us experience Krishna in our life.
Thank you, Jamuna Jaya. Yeah, ray of sunshine. Absolutely, a ray of sunshine.
Okay, who's next?
Yeah,
Reflecting.
I see we have a couple of comments here in the chat as well. Andrea, so nice to see you. Thank you. Thank you for you're always here. So it's, to say thank you for being here is just like, that's every day. But yes, it applies to today as well. And Andreas said in the chat, Hare Krishna, if envy keeps us from Krishna's love, then how can we experience his love and that of his devotees to cure us of envy? Yeah, right. So a lot of the time it does come through a devotee. At least that's been my own experience. Sometimes we can get a little cynical. I hope it's okay for me to say. Sometimes we can get a little cynical about God. Sometimes in our life, sometimes we can get a little cynical because God may feel so distant at times, or God may feel so big at times, and it can be difficult for us. But a devotee, I find it's harder to become cynical. Even in the cloudiest of days, it's harder to become cynical about a devotee who we know, who we trust, who we have loving connection with. It's so nice to be with a devotee, or to even hear a pastime of a devotee. Sometimes if we may feel that we can't digest fully Krishna's pastimes, if we read the pastimes of a devotee, if we read Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, something like that, it's like, yeah, it just brings us back to our center. So it seems that, the devotees, of course, we have the Vaishnava Pranam, Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhyevcha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. So in this way, the Vaishnava is compared to Kalpataru, right? To a desire tree. And, always giving, always giving. So our envy or our whatever obstacle is there is really no obstacle for the love of a devotee, because they are always giving like desire trees. And, it's interesting, the term desire tree, because that implies that there's a desire. And that often is the case for a sincere aspirant on the path. But as we know, Lord Chaitanya gave love of God even to those who didn't desire it. So in this way, the mercy continues to flow. And if we're sincere, even if there is some envy there, or even if there is some conditioning there, the love will just be so overwhelming that we can't deny it, and it somehow activates the sincerity that's within us. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. We have darshan of Prabhupada right now coming from Adipurusha Prabhu. And let's see, any other comments here? Okay, so there are some comments, no particular questions. And yeah, Bhakti Hugo. Yeah, thank you, Bhakti Hugo, for noting this. And yeah, anyone have any thoughts, reflections?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Dear Dina, Bandhu Prabhu, thank you for committing your time and energy to this class and enlivening us.
Hare Krishna.
It seems you've just said the word cynicism, and envy seems to be kind of a projection of cynicism onto the outside world, onto others. And the flip side of that, if we kind of apply that cynicism to ourselves, then it can be self-deprecation or an inferiority complex. And something I spoke about with some devotees probably last week was that sometimes I'll get in my head about my shortcomings, about my faults, about my difficulties in Krishna consciousness, or just in life in general, that I don't relate to people kindly enough, or that I am not cultivating myself enough, and all these kinds of things. But I was speaking with some devotees and coming to this realization that when I'm with the devotees, I'm loved. And all of the things that I imagine to be my shortcomings or my faults or so many things, my dear friends in devotional service don't even notice them. They love me so much, regardless of all the kinds of negative things I can project on myself. And the devotees, of course, are an expression of Krishna's love. And so that can be very healing for both self-deprecation and envy towards others. Just understanding that we don't need to defend ourselves. We don't have to protect ourselves or prove anything. We're already loved. Whatever we can do to kind of cultivate ourselves, to grow as individuals, that's like a cherry on top. People will be happy to see that. But how we are right now we're so loved in that state. And that can be a very valuable thing to remember, especially in our darker times.
Absolutely. So beautifully said. Thank you, Bhakti Hugo Prabhu. Yeah, that the devotees' love and Krishna's love, that can be just such a great motivator for us also, just kind of remembering how much Krishna wishes for us to blossom in this life, not thinking that that we are up against, impenetrable forces in our life or something like that. And also, as you said, I really like that you emphasized outside of this whole growth paradigm, right now, Krishna loves us, Krishna cares for us, the devotees love and care for us. I had a friend who one time said, and I appreciated this very much, he said his worst day in Krishna consciousness was still infinitely better than his best day prior to his, arriving at Krishna, the path of Krishna consciousness. So that's like great, that really changes the way we can perceive of, our day to day. It was really nice to hear that.
Nice, Dina Bandhu Prabhu. My sister once told me, yeah, sometimes I tend to be mental. I tend to overthink and over worry and getting into my own head. And then every time I catch myself doing that and I open the Bhagavatam, then immediately this cooling effect that Dina Bandhu Prabhu was describing so beautifully, there's nothing but freshness in the spiritual world. So immediately this cooling effect kicks in. And every time, and then I was, exactly. And I was thinking, every time I don't open the Bhagavatam, I immediately experience my own insanity. So there's Srimad Bhagavatam right there. So let's take to Srimad Bhagavatam. Every time we're about to get purified, like Dina Bandhu Prabhu said, we're about to get uplifted. So every time we feel that some upliftment is coming our way, let's take to Srimad Bhagavatam and experience Krishna. And I also wanted to appreciate Andrea Prabhu's comment about how everyone who attends this class regularly, she says, is loved. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Dina Bandhu Prabhu.
Yeah, so beautiful. Yes. Everyone who attends this class regularly, they're all loved. And I love how Ananda Vihari Prabhu, how you at the end of every class you say, "I love you all." It's so special, Prabhu. I just want to publicly, just appreciate you for that. So much. And thank you, Andrea Prabhu, for driving this point home. And if we can express our love for each other, also it reminds us of Krishna's love. Ananda Vihari Prabhu, you're doing that. Love you all. And I share the same to all of you. Love you all.
Nice. Thank you, Prabhu. Thanks for encouraging us. Susan says, I feel all your love, Andrea, as well as love from everyone. Yeah, see, it's wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you, Susan. We feel your love. Okay, Adipusha Prabhu, what's happening? Is darshan happening? No?
Okay, so any other thoughts, questions, reflections? Maybe someone wants to name one way in which you perceive Krishna's love in your day-to-day life.
This class.
Food, prashadam. I remember one time on Wisdom of the Sages, Raghunath Prabhu, he made this very fun point. He said, isn't it incredible that food tastes good? Like, we have to eat. What if we lived in a reality where everything just tasted bad, but we had to eat anyways? And so he said, it's such a beautiful thing. We have so many lovely fruits of all kinds of different nuances of sweetness, and so many vegetables and grains and all kinds of delicious things that the devotees cook and everything. And we can taste and imagine we have to do this. We have to eat. And there's so many things in life we have to do, but it's like, oh my goodness, I wish I didn't have to do this. But food, we can appreciate. There's so many nuances of flavor and taste. It's like it's a little microcosm of the variegatedness of the spiritual world that we can engage in this way.
And Bhakta Yuga is a living example of that, of this appreciation for prasadam. He honors prasadam during class. It's very inspiring, and experiencing Krishna's mercy through that. I also like to I like the point that Bhakta Yuga made about, oh no, it was Dina Bandhu Prabhu. Yeah, it was you. I'm sorry. How the best day before Krishna consciousness can't even compare to the worst day in bhakti. Yeah, that's a very good point. I was thinking, I was in the summer camp, and there was a kitchen where they would cook stuff for us. It was a mundane summer camp, we were teenagers, and that kitchen was such a stinky place. My goodness, there was like a vent, and if you come near it, you can like drop dead immediately. And I thought that was normal, that kitchen stinks like that. And when I came to Krishna consciousness, I realized it doesn't have to stink. It like food soup kitchen can smell good, prasadam can smell good, food smells good. Yeah, just a quick story. We'll all come from we'll have some experiences of stinky places in life, but Srila Prabhupada is so merciful, so kind, and so loving that he created this house for us where all can move in together and set up a nice, good smelling kitchen and experience Krishna together. There's nothing better than that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, Adi Purusha, sorry.
And giving it to others. We're not just trying to make an arrangement for ourselves. That's why love is an expansive thing. Prabhupada says, I love you for you, not what I get from you. So the more we try to give Krishna's love to others, the more we'll experience it ourselves. On Sankirtan, we feel Krishna's love flowing through us to the people. It's like getting intoxicated. You can't understand. Well, how come I've never met this person before? I'm only with them for a few minutes, but there's some powerful, solid, clear, easily perceivable affection. There's no other word for it. And underneath everything, everybody loves everybody. So we forget we only love this person. I don't love the gentle and the good. But the Goswamis, Dira Chanapriyo, they are beloved by the gentle folk and by the ruffians, because they're not envious of anyone. So we have to give Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada. I don't want you to be Krishna conscious. I want you to give Krishna consciousness to others.
Right. Like if we're overflowing with all that Krishna has given, right? Then why can't we give? Yeah.
Yeah, Adipurusha Prabhu is unstoppable.
You
Unstoppable giver.
exemplify that with your seva. Yeah.
Okay. I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I actually wanted to just, if it's okay, Adi Purusha Prabhu, I wanted to just ask you a quick question of like, was that something that you felt from the very beginning when you connected with Krishna consciousness, that you wanted to give it, that you wanted to share it? Cool.
An interesting question. When I was first asked to do this program, Feeding the Homeless, I was out there and I was thinking, I have no love for these people. I honestly don't. So Krishna put you in position to you start to do it, and then he helps you. How wonderful is Krishna? The deities are appearing here.
Thank you. Thank you, Adibur. Okay, that was the dynamic darshan from Adipusha Prabhu. So thank you very much, Dina, Bandhu Prabhu. Great discussion, great class. We weren't intimidated by your presentation. It was very nice.
Glad to hear it. Thank you, Ananda Vihari Prabhu. Thank you. And I wasn't intimidated by all of your presence. I felt uplifted and guided by everyone being here. So thank you.
Nice, great. Thank you very much. Thanks everyone for participating. Come again tomorrow. Srimad Bhagavatam never ends. See, this book never ends. And take Krishna with you wherever you're going. Take devotees with you. Take some prasadam with you, like Bhakti Hugo, and everything is going to be all right. Everything is all right. You are loved already now. Okay, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama.